Welcome to the Healthy Metal Hippie podcast, where art and wellness collide. I'm your host, Ashley, and I am so excited to connect with you today. Now, let's jump into today's episode, ready to rock and with an open heart. Well, hi, and welcome back to the Healthy Metal Hippie. Today, I am so excited to be here with my friend Bev. You may know her work, even if you don't know her, because she is, well, we were just discussing, she's actually a former recovering workaholic. She is a recovering workaholic and has done tons of work across film and TV in costume design. Thank you so much for being here today, Bev. I'm truly, truly delighted.
Oh, thanks for having me. Hi, everybody. Nice to be a part of this and join in on this conversation. And yeah, let's just talk life and how much it changes for all of us.
Yeah. And I had so much fun when we met up a few weeks ago in London. We went to some workshops, and now I think I am a workshopaholic.
Amazing.
Thanks to you. And actually, truthfully, sitting with you kind of reminded me how much, and not that I've ever forgotten, but it really embedded in me how much I do love art and creating things, and just how it makes you feel, how it transforms your spirit. And so I'm very, very thankful for that experience. I think, God, there's so many things that I love about you, and I don't care. Again, I don't care if I'm being like gushy about you, because
Amazing.
some of the conversations we have had have been extremely impactful for me and my life and how I approach things. And I'd love to just like get into that with you, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, like honestly, like the same goes for you. Like Ashley, like every time we get together, regardless of, I mean, we've known each other for a long time since our teens, and I think we reconnected as adults, and
Yes.
and it's just amazing that regardless of how far apart we are and how often we get to hang out with each other, which isn't often at all, but there's always a conversation that's left with both of us, I think, an imprint that's comforting. And, we always have deep conversations, which is my favorite form of talk. So it's just, so it's just really, really nice to just connect with you every time. And yeah, I agree with you with the workshops. It's just, there's just something that happens, I think, as we get older, that we forget that play and learning is a part of us, and it's just something that we should continue to strive for and continue to do all the time, even if it is in like a 3-hour workshop. It's just a sense of accomplishment you get when you open yourself to the unknown. So I wholeheartedly agree with you that workshops are good for the soul, I think.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
I think too, it is that value of play very much. I think it helps you recover from that workaholic syndrome.
Absolutely. I think, like, listen, I don't know what it is for you when you were growing up, but for me, I had to grow up quite fast. So I remember a time when I was growing up where I couldn't wait to get to the next stage of life. Like when I was in elementary school, I was ready to be in junior high. When I was in junior high, I was ready to go to be in high school. When I was ready to be in high school, I was ready to be in college and university. And then when I was in university, I was ready to be like a full-fledged working adult. And
Yeah.
There's a sense of life when you grow up where you're just like, I'm ready for responsibility. I'm ready for all this. So sense of play for me is something that's kind of like escaped me, I guess, as a kid. I don't think I remember a time where play was active. I have times where I remember like playing like Power Rangers with like my like childhood friend and like, running around his basement and like jumping off the walls and having a good time. And then I also remember a time when I was like playing Barbies and Ouija board with my cousins and all this other stuff. But I think like imagination and, you would think that someone who works and has worked in the film industry, that sense of play still is with you sometimes. But there is a level of professionalism and a level of, I guess you could say, a level of there's a certain level of routine that comes with working on shows like that, despite having new scripts and working with new people all the time. And the great thing about the industry is that you do get to meet new people all the time. And it does give you a sense of like relearning the job each time that you're on a new show and a new contract. But when you commit that much time and effort into something, which is easily 60 hours a week, you forget to have fun in other aspects and other areas of your life where it's not
Right.
connected to monetizing on it. So yeah, I just think it's so important that like we take the time to not monetize on our hobbies and our interests and just allow ourselves room in areas where there could be errors and room in areas where you're like, oh, like I really suck at this, and that's kind of okay.
Yeah.
Or like, like it's just like one of those things where you're just kind of like, oh, like it's like finger painting. It's just allowing yourself to
That
explore.
flow. Yeah. Yeah, like that flow and that freedom. Like
Yeah.
it was so okay, that our workshop, I felt
Yeah.
like really nervous
Yeah.
because it was so delicate and I was like,
Yes.
you're gonna fuck this up. And I mean, it actually turned out like really nice.
Beautifully, beautifully. It was like, oh my gosh, like, and then when you get to see the final result like that, you're like, oh my God, I made that. Like, it's really,
Yes.
it's kind of fun. It's like, oh, okay, like, yeah, it's like a different sense of accomplishment, I suppose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's funny even so I went to do the kintsugi
Yeah.
workshop and I am okay, I'm kind of obsessed now. I'm like
Amazing.
ready to break all of the dishes in my cabinets, but and actually I got a little kit so I can do it at home from the guy.
Amazing.
But but you know what? I
Mhm.
was really nervous there. I was more so nervous that I was going to break it a little bit too much and get
Yeah.
detention.
Yeah.
And but actually I felt so like it was so healing, and
Yeah.
that's and it but the whole thing really reminds me that that art and that creating things with your hands, and again, you're right, not for monetization.
Yeah.
It can be, oh my gosh, it can be so healing, so restorative to, I mean, to your whole soul, your
Yeah.
brain, your like everything.
Of course.
And you see it so often,
Hmm.
and I get to play more now than I did before,
Girl,
which
same.
is
Same.
so good.
Yeah.
But I, in a totally different way I can relate, where you just
Yeah.
sit and you work and you work and you work, and like everything just kind of seems to kind of get crushed
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Definitely a workaholic. I'm probably still a
Amazing.
workaholic, but at least I like the work now.
I think that's a different aspect of work. I think, kudos to all the people out there who like put all of their time and effort into a passion and they wake up every morning and still like call it a passion. Like you
Yeah.
couldn't like I genuinely believe you couldn't do what you are currently doing with the hours that you put into it if you didn't find fun and you didn't find play in it.
Yeah.
Like genuinely, I think anyone who's fortunate enough to really do what they love is like in a very fortunate position. And that is just, there's a great saying that's just like, what is your rich? And it doesn't mean
Right.
like monetarily anything of that source, but like richness could be like having your health and being surrounded by family and like doing what you love. And if that ties into your career, then all the more better. And then there's the
Yeah.
people out there who are the complete polar opposite, where it's just literally their richness is having that secure job, 9 to 5, having a family and being able to like have that barbecue on the weekend with like the community. Like there's just so
Yeah.
many versions of what your rich life
Yeah.
looks like. And like kudos, like honestly. And I think that was me at some point. I think
Yeah.
my richness has just changed. What I want for myself has just shifted. And yeah, like it's just embracing what that version of myself looks like now more than anything. But yeah.
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 And so how do you want to tell people a little bit how things have shifted for you, maybe especially kind of recently?
So, I mean, quite the segue, but I think for 15 years, I've been working in film and television as a costume designer. And for the first 10 years of those years, I was heavily invested in the world of make believe, and it has been a very, very handsome career, and I've loved as much as I can love from it. Recently, my husband and I decided to try and start a family, and it worked.
Yay! And we're
Yay!
so happy. So freaking happy.
Yeah. So it was one of those situations in my life that if you were to ask me 15 years ago, that the immediate answer would have been no, I don't want kids. I don't want a family. I want to highly focus on my career. And I did that for a very long time. And as the career changed, the industry changed, and meeting some amazing people in my life who've just grounded me in a way that I didn't think was possible. My husband and I decided that if children were to happen for us, it would happen. And if it didn't, it didn't. There was no pressure. And either way, we would just make the changes where we need to make the changes. And sure enough, we are currently taking care of a little bean that is growing in my oven. And all priorities have changed. Everything is changing. And we're more than thrilled and excited about it. So, yeah, I'm enjoying this process very, very much. I didn't think I would, in all honesty. But I have all this fueled, renewed energy. I think I'm taking care of myself for the first time in a very, very long time. Like actually actively taking care of my health, actively taking care of my mental health as well, both physical. And yeah, just giving myself the best opportunity to have a little bean that's growing as healthy as possible. So, yeah, that's the biggest shift in my life.
But it's massive. And you
Yeah,
know what? But that's, again, you go back, it's
yeah,
hugely healing. This that you get to you get to slow down,
yeah,
take your foot off the gas a little bit
yeah,
right now. You've been doing, I mean, amazing things like right now. So, okay, just for context, if you don't know, Bev is
yeah.
based in Vancouver, Canada. Um, she just came over. We met in London, had a blast, ate some good food. And, you were in New York for a week. And right now she's
Mhm.
actually based in Ireland for a week.
Yeah.
I mean, you're, you are living life fully.
Yes.
And um, I think it's so easy for all of us to just, you know, waste life. And that,
Mhm.
and you know what, and it doesn't even mean that you have to spend money like jet setting around the world or doing
No.
things like that, right? But
Yeah.
there are so many things where we can grab hold of life by connecting with people or, you know, doing whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
And I think when you can step into that and just really go for it, and obviously,
Hmm.
like once your baby comes, it's going to be a little bit quieter for a little bit, but you'll be back out there doing magical things with your baby too.
Yeah, I don't think this behavior is ever going to change. Like, listen, I don't know how people choose to live their lives, but for me, my entire life has been a series of magical moments. And it's been magic because I really genuinely feel I leave myself open to opportunities that would just never ever like say no to certain things. And I can innately say that if I'm saying no to something, it's because an intuition or an inner voice is saying either like, maybe this isn't the right path at this time,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe it's nerves, or maybe it's fear. It could be a number of things, but it's
Right.
always kept me safe. And I can honestly say that every time that I'm off jet setting somewhere, or I've met some really interesting people, or I've escaped natural disasters or death or anything of that sort, is because I've just followed literal music to take me to a different area. I've gone along with people that I've never met before because it's fun to explore and see like what's out there for me.
Mm-hmm.
And like I feel like this is the same thing. I feel like if you leave yourself open to saying yes to anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, you learn not only something about yourself in the process, you
Mm-hmm.
realize how much stronger you actually are as a human being. And you have some great stories to share. And I just, is something I really just want to pass on to people. And if I can share that experience with this person that I am currently growing and
Yeah.
teach them any type of life lesson, that would be it. Like, life is long and short at the same time. We are
Mm-hmm.
complicated plants that need sunlight and water for the bare basics and bare minimum, but
Mm-hmm.
ultimately we can't be constrained to a pot that just doesn't let our branches and our roots grow. And the more we allow ourselves for these branches to reach out to different people and to different soils and to different water and to different everything and environments, the stronger we grow. And yeah, little parts of us die every once in a while because shit happens, things happen, but that's life. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we only have our stories.
Yeah.
We only, that's the only thing you can take to death with you is the
Your
people around
stories.
you that can share stories. And when you have those, nothing can be taken away. Ultimately,
Mm-hmm.
it can't. These are your stories to share. These are stories to tell. And genuinely, I have led this beautiful life that just keeps growing because curiosity is leading me to the most beautiful places. And if that's any piece of advice I can give to any person is to just lean into the curiosity. Like, and
Take
be
more
scared about it.
chances. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, be scared
Yeah.
about it. Like, we are so afraid of being afraid that like we forget what happens on the other side when we just allow ourselves to be a little bit nervous about something, you know? So, yeah, that's just like that's just something I want for everyone to just be able to experience. Safe zones are safe for a reason. They're also quite boring. So,
Yeah.
and you know what? Even when you're in your safe zone, you're gonna die anyway. So you might as well collect a few stories along the way. But yeah,
No, I agree with it
yeah.
though. I mean, there's I think I take a lot of chances.
Mhm.
um and sometimes I think like I should have taken more, but at the
Yeah,
same time I'm like, no, I'm back to like take chances mode. So
yeah,
it's cool.
yeah,
It's cool. We're like, we just like had to do a little detour for a second, but we're like, we're
yeah,
back there. And you
yeah.
know what? You're absolutely right. The best things come from when you took a chance. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And it's, yeah. And I think, I don't know, you've always been able to like trust your intuition and those
Hmm.
feelings. I have for the most part too, even if sometimes they may have let to like shit for a little bit, but then they like, the shit falls away and then you're like, oh no, actually, this was
Yeah.
the right way.
Yeah.
and and so what, like, if people do struggle with it though, do you have advice for anybody? Like, how do you lean into it? Because for me, I just hear you going like, I don't know, just fucking do it.
Yeah, I think the sentiment is kind of the same. It's like you gotta keep moving forward. Like, don't step back. Like, if you're already in 10 meters of mud and shit, don't go backwards so then you have to go back and do it again. Like,
Yeah.
keep going forward. It's like any uphill battle, right? Like people say, like, why would you want to redo those steps several times? And given some people do need to go through the shit a few times to actually learn the lesson.
Yeah.
We've all done it. We've all been there. We've all had hard lessons to learn where we keep repeating the same pattern, the same mistakes. And I truly believe the universe keeps throwing it at you until you're like, hey, have you figured it out yet? Have you learned
Yeah,
yet? Because we're
it's
going to
true.
keep throwing it at you until you've learned. And I think the best thing you can do is to keep going, like just keep trying until it makes sense to you, or until it clicks, or the result that
Yes.
you want actually comes to fruition. But the worst thing you can do is take a step back and go backwards and then move forward and then go backwards. Like, it's just, why are you making the mess 10 times harder on yourself? Just keep moving. Like,
It's yes. Oh
yeah.
my god. It's so true.
Yeah.
And and a lot of people too will, maybe they only need to go like 12 feet through the shit and they're
Yeah.
like they're 10 feet there and then they decide to go back and it's like,
Yeah.
mm. And
Yeah.
I've definitely gone back before, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I always think about that and I'm like, no, girl, like you're gonna go hit those last 2 feet and get through
Yeah.
it and just
Yeah.
like that's how you're gonna win the whole thing, right?
Yeah. Of course. Of course.
It's not easy, but it's
No.
worth it.
Yeah.
The things that are worth it aren't usually easy, I think. But
That's true. And the usual things that make you nervous or make you scared is probably the thing that you should actually following through with. Like,
yes.
genuinely. Like, I know for a lot of people it's like, oh, I've invested this much time, and for a time when like I was kind of going through the motions of life changes and how I wanted things to shift as well.
Hmm.
And a lot of it happened since, like, basically since the pandemic, where it really clued into me. I'm like, oh, if I didn't have costume design, if I didn't have this job, what would I be doing? Like, what are my other skill set? And that really sparked an idea in my head. I'm like, what could I be doing differently? Because I didn't want to spend the rest of my life reliant on other people's creativity in order for my creativity to flourish, which is initially what film is like. The industry is. You're
Yeah.
a combination of many, many talents of many different people coming together for one story. But
Right.
ultimately, you are reliant as a contractor onto somebody else to help you create. And that was like a scary feeling that I was really deeply uncomfortable with, because I think at some point you realize, like what if I don't want to do this anymore? And how do you find something else when you've been in a niche market for so long? And ultimately in my industry, I'm for the role that I play as a costume designer, I'm at the top of the top. There's nobody, like, I run my own department. I'm collaborating with like several other heads of department, and like I'm at like the top of my game. And ultimately at the end of the day, you have to realize that unless you want to continue being in the film industry and evolving into different roles, like a producer or like
Hmm.
a director or anything else, like beyond the role of which you already play, there's really not much room for growth. And if I'm being honest, this is something I wanted to do since I was 7 years old, and I'm 30 years in, man. And it's just like, oh, I came to the conclusion that like I'm 30 years in and there's really nowhere else for me to go, but I still have so much life left to live.
Yeah.
And you start looking at other areas where you can keep growing as a person. And I think one of the major pandemics in our generation now, especially as millennials, is that we are the weird group of people that have been brought into this world with our families' work ethic of you work hard, you go to school, you get a university degree, and you like, the old school way of thinking is that you work until you're 65 and then you retire and then you kind of get to enjoy life. But
Yeah.
we're also part of the internet boom and the technology boom of all that is changing, where you can create your own life, you can create your own niche, you can create your own market, you can create all this other stuff, and you can be profitable and all that stuff on top of it as well. So we're in this weird cusp of we are literally the generation of an overabundance of option of what you can do. And like,
Yeah.
and that's like exciting and that's amazing. And so when you've been doing something for as long as I have been doing, you're in this weird mental mindset of like, how do I creatively shift what I'm doing, but also being able to support myself in one of the worst financial like crises we've ever seen
Yeah.
currently, where nobody in our generation can actually afford a home without the help of our baby
Yep.
boomer parents. So
Yep.
like we're in that weird generational gap of just trying to figure out what this version of this portion of life looks like. And I find it so interesting and it's scary and it's terrifying. But we're also fortunate enough that my career and my life has afforded me a semi-retired life where I get to
Yeah.
be picky, I get to be choosy, and I get to work when I want to work. And I'm afforded an amazing opportunity where I can travel and keep learning and keep changing my mind and keep adding to my bank of knowledge and whatever else you want to call it and my skill set. And I think the hardest thing about now is that we're in this weird grind culture. And one of the reasons why a lot of us are struggling is because we're trying to keep up financially. But none of us have that third thing that our family was our parents were afforded, which was, you get to get up in the morning, you get to go to work, you get to go home, and you have that third thing that brings you joy and brings you mental clarity, like going to the gym or taking an art class or what have you. And a lot of
Yeah.
us were in the generation gap of you get up, you go to work, and you go home. And
Yes.
the third thing that is meant to inspire you as a person, the third thing that is meant to help you grow as a person is such an important thing. And like that doesn't necessarily mean like it needs to be a hobby of any kind. It can just as easily as, you know, networking and being part of community
Yeah.
outside of a work everyday life
Yeah.
balance. And part of that balancing act is having the third, which is your community of growth,
Yeah.
mental growth, and personal growth. And I think it's just such a shame that we're building this life, a foundation of social media and like constantly attached to a device in our hands and seeing everything that everybody is doing is like third tier digital marketing and like all sorts of stuff, like just monetizing on every single little thing. Like
Hmm.
our whole lives has become a commercial. And at
Yes.
some point, like you have to choose whether or not that's something important to you or not. It's like, yeah, thanks for the extra $500 a month, but ultimately, like, am I actually enjoying life, or is it just publicity at this point? And
Yeah.
I think there's just something about that is such a shame that we need to go back to like a certain level, a certain level of allowing ourselves to be bored and sitting in grass with our feet in the ground and just staring at the clouds and figuring out shapes and just being like, that's fun. And that's okay. Like, it's okay to
It,
be bored. It's like, it's okay to just
yeah.
stare at the sky for a while and just watch time go by and not constantly being bombarded by what they're trying to sell us. And I think slowing down and being able to do that from time to time is just so useful for the soul. You know? It's like those old books when we were growing up. It's chicken noodle soup for the soul. And I really
Oh,
truly believe
yeah.
being bored is chicken noodle soup for the soul. It's like
Yes.
you learn how to be with yourself and with your mind and your ideas, and really gorgeous things come out from that when you get to do that. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I was just gonna say that too,
yeah.
like that quiet time where you do get to be bored. That's
Yeah.
where the best shit comes out, right?
100%.
Oh,
Yeah.
like it's God, it feels so good. I love those moments. And
Yeah.
and sometimes, yeah, it's really hard to disconnect sometimes
Yeah.
from your phone and from all the shit that you have to do, because you know what, like it or not, we all have like a never ending to-do list.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but sometimes, and there's certain people who will listen to this like, yeah, I'm talking to you, okay. um
Yeah.
Sometimes it's okay just to be like, fuck it, I'm
Yeah.
doing something for me.
Yeah.
And your laundry is not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing whatever you want to, clean the dishes in the morning because you want to, I don't know, do whatever tonight. Who fucking
Yeah.
cares? Just do them in the morning. Like,
Yeah. And it's so funny.
on a very base level, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you say that because like a girlfriend of mine sent in like a group text the other day. She's just like, "Do you guys ever have those days where you feel like you got so much done and you got nothing done?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Girl, I hear you. I see you.
Yes.
Like,
Hmm.
yes, there's always going to be a laundry list of stuff to be done. Like, and once those three things are ticked off, you're going to add another three because it just, as an adult,
That's how it goes.
as a
Yeah.
person, that is just life. That is just literally how it goes. And genuinely, I just told her, I said to her, I'm like, listen, I know like we all have those days. And like 100% I agree with you. But then I look at the comparative list of just being like, yeah, if you look at my 500 things I have to do, and I at least got three done today, that is an average that I can live with. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
three is a beautiful number. There's a reason why it's like the magic number within maths as well.
It
It is just,
is.
yeah. When you're comparing anything, it's three. If you need a vote on something, it's three. Like it's just three things that can make you feel accomplished and just allow you to move on just a little bit more. And we need to take the time to just be like, how important is this right now? Or do I need to take a minute? And sometimes
Yeah.
that minute is needed. And yeah, it's just, adulting is hard. Being a person is hard. Like, it's hard enough as it is. Let's
It
not be hard on
is.
ourselves.
I
Like,
know. I know. And we are. God,
yeah.
we're so hard on ourselves. I know. My big unplug moment I haven't quite gotten into yet, but it's
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah.
I got a giant chest of drawers to restore. I don't know if I
Yeah.
showed it to you,
Yeah, you
but
did. You did. I'm
oh,
so
okay.
excited for you.
Oh God,
This little
I am
restoration
raring to
project.
go. It's kind of a big restoration, but I'm, for me, because I've never
Yeah.
done it, but I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm ready to put my heart and soul into it and make art and heal. And
Yeah.
oh God, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I was wondering. I know you told me a couple of years ago, and
Yeah.
if you don't want to share it, it's fine,
Yeah.
and I'll cut it out. But
Yeah.
if you you told me this story a couple of years ago about a wedding dress, a wedding dress fail
A wedding
that
dress fail.
you made it for a friend, I think it was, and it
Oh.
failed. Do you
Oh
remember
yeah.
this?
Yeah, I think if it's the one that we're talking about, I was commissioned to do a wedding dress for someone about 3 months or maybe 4 months before I was packing up my shit to move to London.
Right.
And I am a serial procrastinator. And on top of being a serial procrastinator, I was just immobilized by fear of failure. And it was one of those situations that I tried to put it on the other person. And rightfully so. I recognize now more than anything that I was completely in the wrong. I shouldn't have taken on that contract, to be honest. Yeah, I it was a hard lesson to learn about yourself. Like I remember growing up, God bless my mother, I love her. But I was always told that I didn't have the patience to be a fashion designer, which is what I originally wanted to be.
Right.
But there was just this innate fear in myself when I was taking on this project that I wanted to do this piece for her as a wedding dress. And I thought I could do it. And it was like last minute. And then it was the day of her wedding, and the dress was falling apart literally in her hands. And I think in that moment, I heard my mother's voice of just being like, I told you you weren't, you know, able to do this. But then when I realized in that moment that one, I don't, and she was not like a bridezilla by any means. She was actually one of the nicest people ever. And I can admit now more than ever that I failed her miserably. And I probably shouldn't have gotten paid for that job at all, like what little she did pay me in the first place. But what I learned actually is that I'm better in a leadership role. I learned that in that moment that I am better at creating ideas and design and commissioning and outsourcing to people who are much more talented in the making department of garments and paying them for their ability to create like those versions of garments, and that I am in a better position and I could be in a better position if I shifted that way instead of trying to do everything myself all the time. Um, yeah, I think that was a hard lesson for me to learn in my early 20s. Yeah,
I
it was,
I honestly I love that story though. And
yeah,
like even though obviously yeah, devastating, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
um but it really it honestly it made me think a lot too about like what are my strengths and
yeah,
what are why are we trying to do all the work that we do suck at, you know?
yeah, yeah,
And getting the right people to help us. And
yeah,
I think that's part of it too in this in well in everything, in your self-discovery, in your recovering from being a workaholic, from letting
yeah,
go of control. there's
yeah,
there's so many pieces of it. And I think about it in my businesses now a lot. I'm like, what would Bev do? And,
yeah,
but the other thing I think about is like in high school, I
yeah,
got 100% in multimedia class.
yeah, yeah,
But my teacher's like, I have to give you 100. And I
yeah,
don't think I should, because you you're the idea person, but you make
yeah,
everybody else in the class do your work. And I was like,
right,
maybe.
yeah,
and and so like when you say things like that to me, it
yeah,
makes me think about it too. Like, yeah, you find your strengths and
yeah,
like run with those. Not that you can't try and things and make mistakes along the way, obviously,
yes,
but
yeah,
really like aligning yourself with what you're good at. I think it's a
yeah.
massive strength.
But that's the thing, right? Like when you're in high school, for example, those are just not lessons that are taught to you as like an individual. And on top of being a woman, we are kind of told that you have to do it all. And that carries throughout the entirety of just being a like a woman. Like we're told that you can have it all, but you have to do it all, and that carries in all aspects of our lives, whether it's motherhood or careerhood or friendshiphood. Like
Yeah.
we literally are told that like you have to do everything, but like if you really think about it, like no super successful person is like super good at everything. Like
No.
we're like if anything, we are a jack of all trades, and we should all be a jack of all trades. But as a jack of all trades, our role is to find the experts and to find the people who are better at things than you are
Yeah.
at certain aspects, and have and encourage them and nurture their talents to their like the best of their abilities, and like and that's how you become successful. No
Yes.
man is an island. Like you cannot do it all. You can, but like if you're on an island, that shack's gonna fall 1,000 times more than if you were to be like lucky enough to have an architect who just knows how to fucking get it done. Like
Yeah.
it's just like you're gonna get that shelter up way quicker if you utilize the skill set of the people around you than if you're just constantly in a position of like, no, I can do it myself, I can do it myself. That is just stubbornness in the worst form. And
Yes.
I can honestly say that my career would not be as fruitful or nearly as successful if I had tried to run an entire department by myself. Absolutely
Yeah.
not. And I attest this to every single person that has ever come under my leadership and has ever come and worked with me. And I say with me, not for me. These people
Yeah.
are the literal glue that keep my ideas together. And I would not be nearly as successful if it isn't for the team that I surround myself with, who consistently show up for me and help me bring my ideas to life, because they are far more talented in that area than I ever could be. But my role and my like job is to be around the people who are better at shit than I am. They're just
Yeah.
helping me put ideas together, but they are the ones who are physically like making it happen for me. And I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for them. So like the more we and that is comes down to the very bare minimum idea of surrounding ourselves around community to help us grow. And
Yeah.
I take that with me not only in just career but in life and now into motherhood. I
Yeah.
won't be able to raise this kid by myself. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to have all the answers. I'm not going to have all the lessons. But like the people around me will and can
Yeah.
nurture and teach all that they
Collectively.
know collectively. And I think
Yeah.
this weird, strange idea that like this weird thing that we've been fucking selling to everybody that like do everything by yourself is utter bullshit. It's
Yeah.
bullshit.
And I mean, historically, it was never done that way either,
Never,
right?
never.
Like,
Community is so important, and like, and it should be in all areas of our life, period. Like, growth means surrounding yourself around people who are going to help you grow. Otherwise, you're just stagnant and then you die. Like, it's
yep,
just the truth. Like,
it
and,
is.
and like, who wants to stay in one spot and not do anything? You know?
No.
And so, like, yeah, if we're gonna go back to that story, like I just learned that day that I'm just like, yeah, like I'm not a maker. My mother was right. I'm not a maker, but
Right.
I am an ideas person. I am a leader person. I've been told I've been bossy my entire fucking life, and you know what? It's not a bad thing. I just and like and it's true to say to anybody like and working in film particularly is a like that was a lesson that taught me very very quickly that you utilize the talent around you. Elon Musk
Yeah.
wouldn't be where he is if he wasn't an idea person and hired all the engineers to make his shit and his ideas come true. The same thing with our Apple founder and every other company in the fucking world that is as successful as they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
Steve Jobs wouldn't be Steve Jobs if he didn't have those engineers and programmers and all those people So if men can fucking hire the talent around them, we women can do it too. So
It's true. It's true, and you prove it day
yeah.
after day. I love it though,
Yeah.
but it is. It's so
Yes.
important. I mean, we're if we're building something beautiful, then we're just kind of you know making a sum of all the best people and resources around us, right? Like,
Yeah.
and if you want it to be like the fucking best ever, then maybe yeah, you shouldn't do it all yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You can make it the best you want to be, but there's someone out there who has better approaches to how things are done because not
Mm-hmm.
one way, there's no one way of doing anything. There's always going to be somebody out there who's going to do it more efficiently or like more beautifully or
Yeah.
in any other form that it comes in to enhance the idea that you have. And the faster we embrace that no skill set is ours, like to keep, but literally an idea that can flourish in an array of ideas, the better it'll be, always. Because collectively, we are all creative people. Collectively, we're all imaginative. And we can use those skills to our advantage if we just allow ourselves to not hoard our ideas. It's just
Yes.
better. Yeah.
And I think does that maybe sometimes just come down to like, oh, this person will be better than me, or this person will show me up, or whatever it is. And if you think, I don't know, like, is that person gonna take my job? Will people like them better? Or I don't know.
Yeah, I think there
Like
is.
in some circumstances, I mean, but
I mean, look, there's always going to be shitty people who take ideas. And I think there's just this weird fear and this weird narrative that was either fed to us or we feed to ourselves that is like, oh, if I share my idea, somebody's going to steal my idea.
right.
But I think Elizabeth Gilbert said it best, and she said it in her book, Big Magic, that if you have an idea and somebody else in the universe has taken and gone with it, then maybe the idea was never meant to be yours and it was really just meant to be put into the universe and somebody else took it and actually executed on it and created it. Or there's two different versions of the same thing.
Right.
And there's enough wealth in ideas and that's exactly it. Idea is just something that comes to your brain until it becomes something that can be aforementioned or affirmed or physical.
Yeah.
And everybody's version is different.
Yeah.
And you can't claim an idea. I genuinely think you can't claim an idea. You can like patent an idea. You can there's a lot of things you can do. But like, who was it? Thomas Edison and Tesla both had an idea for a light bulb and it just turned into something different. They
Yeah.
both had the same idea for electric light, and it just was two different versions of it. Now,
Yeah.
given history tells us that Thomas Edison fucking did everything, that's not true. He actually
Yeah.
stole a lot of Tesla's ideas. But, like, there's always going to be people out there. But, like, I think thinking that way is coming from a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
It's coming from a mindset that there's never enough.
Yes.
And that's
Exactly.
merely not true. And I have always believed and will always continue to believe that ideas and knowledge is wealth and there will always be endless amounts of it. And there's always enough to go around.
Yeah.
Like, just look at all the different versions of like makeup lines. They all sell
Yeah.
foundation, they sell all eyeliner, they all sell skincare, they all sell like, but there's so many different versions of it. And that's because there's so many different versions of people that are just going to choose what's going to work best for them. So,
Exactly.
yeah, so I just don't, I think scarcity mindset is probably the biggest killer of people moving forward in their ideas. That like if I tell somebody this is gonna da 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 da, like that's just not the case. I think the sooner we embrace the fact that our version of an idea is the only version that exists, and going with that and letting it evolve and change with like knowledge, research, and the people that we talk to that can share all that information with us, then it's just going to keep evolving into whatever version or variation that comes into your head, that's going to be the end product of that idea. But I think the biggest issue is thinking that someone's going to take that idea and run with it, and then shutting yourself out of that idea and being like, well, that person's already done it. That's just not true. It's
And
not.
that's it. Well,
Yeah.
no matter what the idea is, we'll all execute it differently. Just
Yeah.
like you say, you know?
Yeah. 100%.
Like if I said, even if I said in design, you that
Yeah.
make me a blue dress and I'm
Yeah.
gonna make a blue dress too.
Yeah.
They're gonna be completely fucking different dresses.
Yeah. And like if any competition show has shown us like that,
Yeah.
like that's exactly it. Here's
Yeah.
like I remember one of the biggest lessons in this that I learned was I was taking a cooking class with someone when I was younger, and we were all like the entire class was making a clam chowder, and
Right.
all the ingredients are the same. There's nothing different. Like they were all measured out the same. Everything was the freaking same. And what the difference is everybody's taste buds. And the
Right.
only instruction that the chef was teaching us was just flavor, like add salt and pepper or add salt or whatever to your taste. That was the only
Right.
instruction. Everything else was exactly the same. And you would
Mm-hmm.
think that with a literal recipe, all the ingredients measured out to be exactly the same quality, same batch, same everything, that all the soups would come out tasting exactly the same. But that was not the case. We literally sat there, every single one of us tried each person's clam chowder, and each person's clam chowder was different. Because we seasoned to taste, we seasoned to what we wanted. And it was
Yeah.
just such an incredible experiment. And that was basically the day that I like it fucking clued into me that I'm just like, oh, like no, nothing is like the same. There's similarities, but nothing's the
Yeah.
same. And it's
Yeah.
just kind of, and it's just wonderful when you make that connection that, like, when you run with something, when you run with an idea, your version is only going to be your version until
Yeah.
it becomes the complete product or the complete finish that you want it to be. But
Yeah.
and I think that's something we should take into life with us as we keep aging
Yeah.
and we keep
Yeah.
and we keep collecting lessons and we keep collecting things, you know what I mean? Like this is just how it should go.
And I mean, and that helps shape us and like who
Yeah.
we are, who we keep becoming. Because even when we get old, we're still
Yeah.
changing.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
It's and it's just so nice. I think also all that like exploring, new ideas or taking workshops or reading books and listening to music, taking
Yeah.
in art, all of that really makes us, it expands our mind. It
Yeah.
just, it changes us in the best way. Oh,
Yeah. 100%.
and
And
we should never put the brakes on all of that.
no, never. And like I think that's just something that we need to continue taking with us as we move forward into what the story of our life is going to look like. Is again, it goes back to leaving us room to keep learning and to keep growing. I think one of the hardest things for me to witness sometimes is when people reach a certain age and they're just like, well, that's done. Like, that's it for me. Like, I'm just waiting for like death to come to me. And I'm just like, this is the saddest thing I've ever heard. Like, you just, like, life doesn't stop going. Like, it doesn't stop living. And like,
No.
and unfortunately, some people choose to stop. And it's just like, but you have so much left to go.
Yeah.
And like, why would you keep your mind and your body from doing all those things when you have the opportunity to keep thriving? And
It's
like,
yeah.
and like, on top of that too, as we get older, we forget shit all the time. Like revisit some of this stuff. Like
Yes.
yeah, like just because we did one filigree workshop doesn't mean there's still things that we have like we know about it. Like one filigree workshop doesn't mean we're an expert. Like we know everything. Like you can literally go back to it and be like, oh, like I learned something else today. Like I just like
Exactly.
yeah, you can keep adding.
Revisit the things you enjoy and
Yeah,
try new things and
yeah,
God, but I don't understand that either when you're just kind of like, well, that's the end. Now I wait to
yeah,
die. And you're
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah,
okay. All right
yeah,
then.
yeah, yeah.
And I think sometimes people forget that there's a lot of joy in life.
Mm-hmm.
Even through the hard times, there's still just like glimmers of joy that come through in every day. But and sometimes you know what, you gotta fucking dig for them. You gotta search hard.
Yeah,
But it's you know it's good.
yeah. It's like this. Read a story today about a girl who was like befriended at the time like an 89-year-old man, and she was like 24.
Right.
And like how they became friends was that she worked for like I think it was like a bookie, kind of like a gambling facility or something.
Right.
And he would go in multiple times a day, and she just like became friends with him because obviously he was just lonely. And like this girl just like brought this man into her life and like introduced her to all of her young friends and like her family and all this other stuff. And it was just like a new lease on life for him. And I just that is something I just think is amazing and so unbelievably sweet that it's just like leaving. And again, it goes back to leaving yourself open to opportunity. And here's this beautiful friendship that spans generations, but like she's gaining all of his years of knowledge and wealth of wisdom and everything that he's learned in his like 80 plus years, and he is just she's giving him like a new lease on like this what like growing up and like just learning certain things that he's probably already been through, and like he gets the opportunity to share his knowledge with her. And I think it's just such a beautiful relationship that you can have with somebody, that it's
Yeah.
like a mentor and mentee, but also like you're just giving each other a different form of energy. And like I love that so much that like we can forge those type of relationships where we just consistently learn from each other. And I just
This
warmed my heart to read the story.
I know. And
Yeah.
but this is it too. It's a good part of why I started this podcast because
Yeah.
I love listening to people's stories.
Yeah.
Um and you know what? No matter who you're talking to, whether they're old or young or whatever, we can
Mm-hmm.
learn something, I think, from
Yeah.
everybody that we encounter, and having a little bit of patience and like listening to what they have to say because we all like we all like telling our stories in some ways, right?
Yeah.
It's what makes us human and it helps connect us.
Of course. Yeah. 100%.
And
And it's
I love that story,
yeah.
making friends. Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, and it's like, and it's like similar to us too. Like we reconnected after, I don't know, high school, I think. Like we met each other
Yeah.
when we were 17 or I was
Hmm.
18 or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, like we didn't reconnect much later until like you moved to London, I think. I think that
Yeah.
was like,
We were
yeah, and
always
that,
like we were friends online and
yeah,
chat
yeah,
off
yeah.
like on occasion, but
Yeah,
what then when but then yeah, you came here and I was
yeah,
here and
yeah. And we
but
just
it's
got
special.
that way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I think there are bonds that and maybe soul connections that tie people together
Mm-hmm.
throughout life, and it doesn't matter, they seem to transcend space and time and
Yeah,
everything else, and just they keep you there, and so
yeah,
I'm keeping
yeah.
you.
100%.
I hope that's okay.
Oh yeah, it's fine with me. Like if we get to keep having conversations like this, I'm totally cool with it. I'm okay. I'd rather
Absolutely.
have these conversations every day than not. So these are these are the things that like add to my earth and my growth, and like, yeah, I always feel better after these types of conversations with people. So
Me too. It's
yeah,
funny when we were together that few weeks ago.
yeah,
Throughout the whole day, I was like, "Fuck! I should have just been recording this entire day,"
yeah.
because there were so many just incredible moments, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm thankful for all of our time together.
Yeah, same. Yeah, we had some really good nuggets of wisdom on that day for sure. Yeah, I was like,
It
oh,
should have been the, like I say, full day of recording. You could have watched
yeah.
us like eat eggs. I ate
Oh my
eggs, bacon,
goodness.
and then we ate steak, and we
Oh
did
yeah.
art, and we walked, and we
Yeah.
talked. It was a
We had
perfect day.
we had a great day
Oh,
of walking around and just really enjoying, yeah, each other's time and space, and yeah, it was wonderful. It was a really good day. I loved that day. It was perfect. But like
me
I
too.
think that's like life was like slowing down too, where like being able to travel. Like I've had a lot of people ask me, it's like, oh, like what have you been doing on all your travels? And I'm just like, I've literally just been taking it all in. And I have no idea, like, when people travel and they do this sort of stuff, they're always just like, oh, like, what did you do? Like, did you, like, check this out and do a show and also something like, yeah, like, I did those things. But, like, for the most part, I literally just do what I do every day, which is just live my life as if I lived there
Yeah,
permanently anywhere, and just walked about and people watched and allowed myself to be bored. But I just happened to get to do it in a different country and a different city, and just immerse myself in the culture and just really enjoy myself in that way, because again, I just want to gain different perspective, but also I'm exposing my unborn child to the life that I would love for it to lead, which is just to lead into life of curiosity, and allow all these senses and smells and whatnot to permeate their little developing brains right now. But yeah, I just like I don't need to be doing anything in particular when I'm traveling. I really just want to absorb culture and just be amongst really good people and good conversation and good food and people watch and sights and smells and all that stuff. And I think when people travel, there's just this weird idea that you have to be doing something constantly all the time. And there's a sense of urgency with traveling. Like I don't know if you ever get like this, but when you're traveling and then you come home and you're exhausted
yes,
and you don't feel like you've had a break, and the whole point of vacation is to have a break. That is the whole
yeah,
point. And I think people can afford to allow themselves a couple days of grace or a day of grace when they're traveling, to just be in the moment and have no particular agenda and just live a little bit. And I
yeah,
think sometimes living, and the Italians say it best, it is the art of doing nothing.
yeah,
Like you don't have to earn your time off. You don't have to earn your 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 existence. And that is just something that I love as well. It's just allowing yourself some time to encompass what's around you. So yeah,
yeah.
it's just been a really beautiful trip. It's just a lot of that, but yeah, not everything has to be ticked off on a box at a list.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I'll say the first time I did come to London for a visit, it was 3 days, and I
yeah,
damn near killed myself because I was like, "Ooh, but I got to see this and I got to do that." Blah, blah,
yeah,
blah. And no, it's nice to just like be calm. And I think you truly get more out of it when you are just down, present, like
yeah,
in the moment,
yeah,
and you're going to remember a lot more, and you're going to probably remember more about how you actually felt and the experiences that you truly
yeah,
had.
yeah,
It's you'll remember like biting that hamburger, like
yeah,
and
yeah,
the feeling of how the air felt when you're sitting on the patio that
yeah,
day, and whatever the case may be, it's
yeah.
just
Or
it's
that drunken night somewhere where
yes, yes.
that like that donair that just is dripping down your arm when you're just trying to fight that hangover the next day. Like there's just certain things, and like look, if you are if you get joy and like happiness out of being a list maker and a timetable keeper and like all this other stuff, like if that brings you like the utmost joy to do it all,
Then that's
man,
good.
all the more power to you.
Yeah.
Like, but I don't go on vacation to be on a timetable. Like, I think
Yeah.
one of the most beautiful things for me when I'm traveling or I'm away from quote unquote real life, this is real life, but when
Yeah.
I'm away from my day to day life, one of the most beautiful things you can do when you're traveling is not be on a timetable. You don't have anywhere specific you have to be. You don't have anything specific that you have to do. It's literally just allowing yourself to be open to the things around you. And genuinely, some of the most beautiful experiences and the most beautiful things that ever happened to me is literally landing in a place like Montpellier and getting an Airbnb and stepping out of those like the Airbnb after settling in for like an hour, and like the night sky has turned purple and orange, and literally hearing music from every corner of the earth, and you're just like, oh, and you just literally follow the music, and you somehow find yourself across a brass band competition in the heart of Montpellier, France, and just seeing all different types of groups of college schools, different schools, like playing everything from heavy metal music on brass instruments to classical, and it's the most like amazing thing that you can come across. And I've had so many moments like that where I'm just like, I'm just gonna follow the music, or I'm just gonna follow the smells, and
Yeah.
just I've eaten the best meals that way. I've met the most amazing people that way, and I've like immersed myself. I found myself in festivals and all this other stuff that way. And I don't think those experiences would have happened if I had my entire trips and my entire explorative like time being scheduled.
Right.
I don't think I would have been in any of those situations if it wasn't scheduled, or if it was scheduled. And like, and it's just, and like, people, my sister, who's an amazing person, because I'm not the strongest speaker, and I'm not like, I don't love talking about myself, and I'm horrible with comebacks when it comes to like talking sometimes. And she's always encouraged me to be like, you should do improv, you should do improv. And and maybe this is a lesson for me to just do something that scares me, because maybe improv does scare me. But I feel like my life is improv sometimes, where I
Right.
just, I say yes to not having certain things laid out for me and just going for it. And literally the best moments of my life, and the ones that are most memorable and the ones that I cherish most, are the ones where it wasn't attached to a timetable at all. And I I want a lot of more people to feel encouraged to be able to do that, because you leave yourself some moments in your life for improv, and I think that's so important that people should be able to do that instead of getting stressed out over a timetable.
Yes. No, I
Yeah,
agree. I
yeah,
agree completely.
yeah.
Oh.
So
Well,
yeah,
Bev, like I'm gonna have to have you on again at some point because you know I think you perhaps you are teaching people the art of living and
mhm,
the art of self-respect and self-care and really living life to the fullest by staying curious
yeah,
and I appreciate all of the time that you've spent here today and waiting for me because I was late and
life
everything.
happens. Hey, it worked out, man. I got my nap in, and I was refreshed when we got to talk, and like
So it was
it,
kind of perfect. And
it
see,
worked out. It always worked out.
improv,
Yeah, yeah, yes,
improv.
100%. It worked out. So
Aw.
as
Well,
it should.
if people want to follow you online, I know you don't do actually a ton of social media,
Yeah.
but if people want to follow you, where's the best place for them to follow you?
I would probably say Creative Curiosity is my new Instagram account.
Oh,
That's probably one
okay.
that I'm probably going to put more focus into. So if people want to follow me at Creative Curiosity, they absolutely can. Um, but yeah, that would be
Okay.
the one I would say.
Good. I'll
Yeah.
link it in the show notes, and
Yeah.
I didn't know about that, so I need to go
Yeah.
follow you.
Yeah. It'll
And
be underscore Creative Curiosity underscore would be the handle. So
okay.
yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank and thank you again so much for being here with me, Bev. I
No,
appreciate it. I appreciate your time and your wisdom and just like fucking everything. I love you,
same.
girl.
Same. I love you, girl, too. Thank you so much for having me on. And honestly, anytime if you want to have another conversation and maybe do a check-in in either one of ours next adventure that we've taken on, I'm so happy to do it. So
Yes.
I think the next conversation is going to be like what motherhood has taught me. So,
Yes.
but maybe we'll check in then.
And I honestly I can't wait for that one.
Amazing.
So we'll wish you a beautiful evening and
Yeah.
sending you lots of love. Have a great day.
You too. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today on the Healthy Metal Hippie podcast. If you're looking for more, head to healthymetalhippie.com and let's connect. Until next time, wishing you a magical week. See you later.